1984, gentleman named Phil Niekro comes
Hmm.
from Atlanta to New York, the knuckleballer. What was it like
Yep.
catching Phil Niekro, Butchie? I can't believe I haven't asked you this. Known you over a decade.
Never get tired of talking about Phil Niekro. They called me that winter, and the front office, and they asked me if I'd ever caught a knuckleballer before, and I said no. They said, "Are you willing to try?" And I said, "Sure." I said, "Who are we talking about?" He said, "Well, we got a chance to get Phil Niekro," and I went. I still remember the phone calls on the phone, and just yeah, by all means, get him. And when it came to spring training, they still weren't sure who was going to catch him, and it came down to Rick Cerrone or me. So every time Phil would throw a side or throw batting practice or pitch in a game, it came down to either me catching him or Rick catching him, and basically whoever did the best job would catch Phil. And I guess I did a better job, and I became Phil's caddy. Every time Phil threw a side, I caught him. Every time he threw bullpens, I threw it. I caught him, and basically, I caught most of his starts. And it took a little while, but I'll tell you what, Josh, I think it kept me on my toes back there. I couldn't get lazy, and I couldn't let my mind wander. The toughest thing was, and I had many compliments about it, was, man, you're not afraid to call that knuckleball with a runner on third. And I just kind of look at him and go, well, that's Phil's pitch. I got to call
That's all he threw.
it. Basically, every now and then he threw a little sinking fastball, which was basically a changeup. He didn't throw that hard. He had a little breaking ball he'd mix in there now and then just to befuddle. But as time went on, and I got it. Jeff Torborg turned me on to the big black knuckleball glove, and I have it up here in my cubby.
Let's see
Um,
it. Want to get it? Sorry to make you
yeah,
get up, Butchie.
no. Uh, well, here's the Rigetti one. Remember, I showed you the other day the Rigetti one. Okay, just normal glove and everything. Patch is missing. It's in the picture. That's the
Yeah.
normal one. And then
Whoa.
this is the Phil Niekro one. And inside there, you can see it says Butch, a big
Hey, put it in
man
front of the camera here, Butchie.
with
It's
a
this side.
big mitt. You called them all right. Phil Niekro, 300, October 6th, 85. Now,
Right, you caught
I
his
don't,
300th win. Let's talk about that a little bit. It's
yeah,
pretty cool.
he signed it for me. And, but you can see that difference. I don't know if you can,
Yeah.
I mean, and let me tell you, Josh, I needed every bit of this little thing. And, I know when, I caught Phil in Anaheim one night before I went to the Angels, and Gene Mauch was the manager. And Phil beat him one night and everything, and Gene comes up to me next day during batting practice and everything. And he goes, "Butch, I'm gonna." And Gene wasn't one to mix words or anything, but he said, "I'm gonna tell you something. You did a great job with Phil last night. You didn't drop one ball." So I got a feeling from that was their game plan was, hey, on the
Yeah.
bases, be aware your ball gets off Wynegar's glove or be ready to go. He said, you did not miss one ball last night. And for Gene to tell me that was awesome. But
'Cause they had some guys who could run, like Gary Pettis, I know that could run.
Pettis
Um,
could run, yeah. I mean, they had Bobby Grich. He wasn't really a runner, but, he could run. Doug DeCenza is playing third. He wasn't really a runner. I don't remember the Angel teams really being a running type team. It's like the old Boston teams.
right.
Boston slugged. They didn't really run that much, even though they had a couple guys that could run. Phil Niekro's 300th win is up there, right up there with Rigetti's no hitter. We were in Toronto. We just got eliminated the night before. Doyle Alexander. We had to sweep the 3-game series to force a tie. There was no wild card. So we
Yep.
were 3 behind Toronto going into Toronto. I hit a home run in the 9th inning of the first game to tie it. over Jesse Barfield's head, who never let me forget it because he became a hitting coach over with Texas when I was there. And then Lloyd Mosby, I think, dropped the fly ball in the center, and we won. So we're 2 games back now with 2 to go, and Billy Martin's saying this is fate. We're gonna sweep this now. We're gonna whatever. That was Billy, and Doyle Alexander beat us the next day, who pitched with the Yankees, and I knew Doyle very well. Great card player. But I come in Sunday morning, and I walk into the clubhouse, and Phil's already there. And he sees me walk through the door and everything, and he motions for me to come over to his locker. So I walk over to him, and I have no idea what's going on. And he looks at me. I knew he was pitching that day. He looks at me, he goes, "Butch, today's the day." And I'm thinking, yeah, we're going to get your 300th today. He goes, no. He goes, "Today's the day I'm going to pitch without my knuckleball." Phil had this fantasy of one day pitching a major league game without his knuckleball. He talked about it. I thought it was just
Crazy.
Just crazy talk. I didn't realize it was something he really wanted to do. I looked at Phil and I said, "You mean you're gonna ditch your knuckleball and we're not going to use it at all?" He goes, "No." I said, "Okay." I mean, what am I going to tell Phil? And who we got along great. We were really close and everything. We did interviews after that. You know, when I was in Indianapolis with the Pirates, and he came to town, did an autograph signing. We sat in the dugout and they interviewed us, and we talked for. God rest his soul. He was a great human being. So I go to the bullpen to warm him up. Joshy, he did not throw one knuckleball. He had a little sinking fastball, that doo-doo curveball, a little change up. He just took a little bit off his fastball. I mean, it was nothing. There was really nothing to it. So not one knuckleball's thrown. We go through the whole game, Joshy, and not one knuckleball in warm-ups, not one knuckleball during the game, until the 9th inning. And I still wore my knuckleball glove just in case he decided to change his mind in the mid-game. And we had like an 8-0 lead in the 9th inning, and he gets the first 2 guys out, and I look out and he motions me to the mound. So they had just announced Jeff Burrows as a pinch hitter with 2 outs in the 9th inning. He knew Jeff from Atlanta. I get out to the mound, and he looks at me and he goes, "Butchie, I got 299 major league wins with my knuckleball. Let's finish Burrows off with the knuckleball." I still got chills thinking about him saying that to me and everything. And I looked at him. I said, "Let's go, baby." And I turned around and went back to the plate. I think it was 5 knuckleballs later he struck Burrows out. And here I was. I was thinking about myself a little bit, thinking, "Damn, I just caught Phil Niekro's 300th win." And which, by the way, I was behind the plate on his 3,000th strikeout.
Who was that again?
Unfortunately, I got a pass ball on it.
Oh,
it was Larry Parrish in Texas. Well, let me explain this because I brought this up. I brought this up to Larry later on when Larry was, I think, hitting coach with Toledo. This knuckleball was so far up and away to Larry, I couldn't get a glove on it, and he couldn't reach it with a 10-foot pole, and he swung at it. I had this big old thing I was going to do on his 3,000 strikeout. I was going to jog to the mound, hand him the ball, shake his hand, give him a hug. I had this all scripted in my mind what I was going to do. Now I had to run back to the backstop and pick the ball up, and now I didn't know what to do.
You forgot to catch the ball, Butchie.
I did. I think I just flipped it over to the dugout, so we had it, and I stayed behind the plate. But I told Larry, I said, "What the world are you swinging at? Why are you swinging at that bit?" He said, "Butch, I don't know why I swung at it, but I couldn't reach it if I wanted to. That's how far outside it was."
So it was a pass ball or a wild pitch?
They gave me I thought it was a wild pitch, but they gave me a pass ball, I believe. Maybe because it was 3,000 strikeout. I don't know. I don't think I laid leather on it. If I did, maybe I tipped on. I don't know. But I don't feel it wasn't like it was a strike three and I just botched it or anything. It was a tough pitch to catch. So I heard from Phil told me later on about that 300th win. He said him and Joe Niekro, his brother, who was on the staff also, stayed up all night. They didn't sleep. They stayed in their hotel room and they had this plan that they were going to do it. Phil was going to become the oldest person maybe to ever win a 300th or.
Yeah, he was 45 that year, so probably.
Yeah. So what they were going to do is Phil was going to go as far as he can, and if he had to leave, Joe was going to come in and finish it off. So Phil would get the win, Joe would get the save, and they go down as the brothers in the 300th win. Joe made a visit to the mound about I want to say 7th inning. I'd have to check on that. And I'm behind the plate, and I look over, and I see Joe walk into the mound, and I'm thinking, what is going on here? So I don't go to the mound. I stay behind the plate because I figured this was something between brothers. And then I find out later, Joe went to the mound and told him, I think he had a big enough lead. He told Phil, he said, finish this. He said, this is your day. This is your win. You'd be the oldest to ever do this. And I thought that was a really nice thing for Joe to do and everything.
Yeah.
And I didn't find that out till later on and everything, but that was a big throw for me to catch a 300th win.
What was the pitch shape like?
The knuckleball?
Yeah, because there's so many different ways to throw it.
Phil could make it, I think, go either way. He could make it go left. He could make it go right. He tried to teach me how to throw it and everything. I used to have a decent one.
He tried to teach me how to throw a knuckleball too, which I threw in amateur games. I remember.
But he talked about locking the wrist. You don't flick it with your fingers, but you lock your wrist and you basically push it. And I used to have a decent one on the sidelines, just playing catch. But it was after you caught him for a while, you kind of got a feel for. I didn't know which way it was going to go, and I'm not sure if Phil knew which way it was going to go either. But you kind of started getting a feel because it was slow enough where you could kind of ride it. You can kind of see it coming. And I tried to keep my center of my body in front of me and everything. The last thing you want to do is reach out for it and try to go get it. The one I remember most vividly was in Kansas City one day. Onyx Concepcion was hit. And Phil threw one that I had to feel was going to go a certain way, and I started to go for it. Joshy, I swear to you, this ball took off up. If Onyx wouldn't have fouled it back, it would have hit me right in the mask. I swear. That was one of the few that I can remember that I just baffled me. Just wow.
Wow.
I mean, I thought, because it would have hit me right between the eyes, but he fouled it off, fortunately, and everything. So, but you kind of got a feel for it after a while. As much as you caught him and everything, you kind of just rode with it. And if you had to, you just used your glove to make sure but you had to let it come to you. You couldn't go get it like a Rags fastball, maybe get out there and stick it. So, but it was a good one. It was just one that, man, you could see the seams just coming at you. And no spin whatsoever and everything. And that's what made it, also, even though Phil was 44 and 45 when I caught him, he was a good athlete. He held runners good. And he gave me a chance, even on the knuckleball, to throw runners out and everything like that. But he fielded his position good. That's what helped him win 300 games too.
Those are great stories. And we hadn't really talked about Phil and about how you had a bunch of great moments with him. We hadn't ever at all. I don't think, maybe you mentioned a little bit about it in the cage when you were teaching me how to, lock in the wrist and everything. But you taught it. You taught it pretty well. I mean,
yeah, it's a tough pitch to do. It's a tough pitch to throw. That's why you don't see many of them. But it was different. It made me a better catcher, though. It made me be aware. It made me be on my toes. I was on my toes anyway, but with Phil, you couldn't take much time off. And I didn't want to be one of those guys catching knuckleball balls going to the backstop and stuff like that. I wanted to be a good catcher, knuckleball catcher.
Yeah, it's hard to get a rhythm if that's always happening. To the backstop.
But they felt that I handled knuckleball better. So whatever.
So
Glad you did.